Okay, everybody, how you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World, and today we're going to continue on with our politics and art stream. So let me just make sure that I'm actually streaming and everybody can hear me. Let's see here. Let me just go to my channel. All right, and we're all set. Um, I want to test one thing because one thing I've noticed is that when I play videos during these streams, it'll be all weird and echoey. So I want to kind of see how that you know sounds, right? Because it's like all yeah, it's this is bugging me. It's not really that big of a deal, so I'm just gonna go to like my last old video and play it, so that I can see what it sounds like. Okay, I'm gonna see what that sounds like. And because I've been trying to, because there's the thing is that you can't really configure it, and like I think I might need to get like headphones or some shit, and then somehow set it so that it goes. I'm not even really sure. I just want to make sure it sounds okay, you know. So anyway, here it comes. Here, I'm just give me like 2 seconds here, folks. So anyway, um, here's what we were working on last time. Still looking pretty good, I'd say. I haven't really done anything else to this since our last video. So I think we'll continue on with this guy. And let's see. Let me turn this other thing off here. Okay. Let me zoom out. Actually, let me zoom in. All right. Anyway, that was my little sound test. There's like a delay. So I just wanted to make sure that was cool before we went forward. Anyhow, yeah, why don't we continue on with this little sort of weird, evil, disproportionate demon lady and see where we go from this. So I still have not really planned any of this out. I'm just sort of filling it in as I go along, and I'm not even really sure when we'll stop. Maybe eventually, when I get it into a nice square shape, we'll just sort of trim it, and then maybe I'll give this away to somebody. I don't know. Maybe we'll have some sort of thing where you know somebody, I don't know. We'll figure out some kind of method of giving it away to some person or anybody wants it, whatnot. Or maybe I'll just like, give it away as a fucking Patreon kind of thing. Or maybe I'll sell it, I don't know. But I kind of like the idea of like giving this to to a viewer. Anyway, let's zoom in a bit so you guys can see the detail. And I'll just sort of kind of come down this way. And we'll work a little bit. Actually, that's zoomed in too much. Let's zoom out just a little tiny bit. There we go. Okay, well, how is everybody doing out there in America during the coronavirus? Everybody staying safe, staying inside? I certainly hope so. As we've heard, some of the states are starting to reopen under, pressure from the Republicans in the White House and the president, right? Which is not really that good of a thing, seeing how the virus has not gone away yet. The curve is not flattened. And as a matter of fact, in many places in this country, it's still, the number of cases are still increasing, right? So that kind of makes you wonder, maybe this isn't the best time to be like sending people back to work and shit like that. And I understand. Here's the thing, right? Because a lot of the various, news outlets, like liberal news outlets and things, right, are kind of jumping up and down over this, saying it's bad news and everybody's going to die, blah, 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 and it's going to get an increase in spikes. There's going to be a spike of, cases, right? All of that's definitely true, okay? It's going to result in people dying who normally, if they were to shelter in place, stay locked down, and not go to work, they would probably live. That's going to happen. I've been trying my hardest to see this from the perspective of, the Republicans, right? So first off, okay, because well, okay, I don't want to say like there's only one perspective, right? Hey, who'd somebody just posted? Matthias, Tau, Megalo, Alexandru, and libertarians, as far as I know. Yeah, exactly, and libertarians. Um, I'm trying to see it from their perspective. So you have one side of it who are kind of they're very similar to the. Oh, by the way, thanks for joining. I think you're the only person watching right now, but anyway, thank you for joining. You're awesome. I think they're the only people. Actually, what was I saying? Okay, yeah, like right now, I'm trying to see it from their perspective, right? And it's sort of like the people who are out there protesting out there in like Michigan, for example. I don't know if you heard about this. Armed protesters have basically occupied the Capitol building in Michigan, because what happened was that there was a ruling from the Michigan State Supreme Court saying that the shelter-in-place orders are 100% constitutional, because they are, because the governor of your state is the person who is in charge of that, not the president of the United States. So if the governor of the state says, there's a shelter-in-place order, he's the guy that gives the orders, right? He's in charge of the state, not the president, and that's why all of those crazy people went and took over the Capitol building. And, they had to make sure that they were all armed as well, because, conservatives don't protest unless they bring lethal firepower with them. Right. So I'm trying to see it from their perspective. And it's really like hard to not kind of come down and like immediately dismiss it all as ridiculous conservative conspiracy theory in action. Like half of those people that you see on the news like don't believe that the coronavirus is like dangerous. The other half think it's like an escaped bio warfare thing, right? Which maybe it is. There is that possibility, right? So that's the thing about conspiracy theories, is that there's always a little kernel of truth, and the reason it becomes a theory is because you have no proof. You know, like someone will just say, "Oh, this probably happened," but they have no proof that the thing they're theorizing about actually happened. So that's why it's a conspiracy theory. So in Wuhan, China, there actually is a viral lab close to close to the wet market where the coronavirus came from. And so that's where this conspiracy theory that it was like, it escaped from this lab, right? That's where that came from. We'll talk more about that later. But so half of them think that it was like some kind of out of control viral weapon, you know. A very significant number of those people also think this is all part of some weird ass plan by the Illuminati, right? And we really should not underestimate how widespread this conspiracy theory is. Okay, it's the kind of shit that you know 20, 30 years ago you would get laughed out of. You get laughed. People would just fucking laugh you out of court if you tried to like bring this up, right? And now there's like it's turned into like a multi-billion-dollar business. Fear mongering, conspiracy theory fear mongering especially among the right wing. And I'm not saying that the left wing is immune to conspiracy theories, because they're not. You know, there's plenty of wacky people among the left. The more left you go, the more wacky they get. And they'll believe shit like, especially in the alternative medicine crowd. There's a lot of that, when it comes to like people on the left, right? But the whole NWO thing, yeah, it's sort of evolved, you know, to become pretty much a right wing conspiracy theory. They're either like lizard people or the Jews, or lizard people as a stand-in for Jews, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost become this sort of like religion almost among right-wingers, right? And we really should not underestimate how many people actually think that shit is true. The number of people that believe that are at that protest is greater than zero. Just put it that way. So, you know, so you kind of think like you can't really think rationally when it comes to this, right? Because what they're trying to make it look like is like, okay, well, these are just normal people who want to go back to work and they're concerned about their families, and they haven't been able to go to work and some of them are in trouble, and I can definitely identify with that. you know had to pay my mortgage today again, and it's like, every month savings going down a little bit more. It's just like, fuck, shit is not looking good. And thankfully, I managed to get the full amount of, the stimulus checks that we got, but that's only going to help for a month, you know. So I'm like, me myself, as far as like financially, I still have enough to last probably a year if we budget everything well, and I use it just to pay the mortgage, and then we pay other bills other ways, and I've got enough to go for a year. I'm hoping that I manage to find work before that happens, but you know, right. So I can definitely understand people who are like, a little afraid. It's like, okay, it's been 2 months already. You know, we need to like get out there and make money, right? And I'm trying to think of from that perspective, right? Um, trying to think of it like that. Because here's the thing, right? From the Republicans, they've pretty much made that decision. They've made the decision that, okay, it's worth people dying in order to get the economy going. That's the decision they've made. Let's see. Matthias, economic outlook looking bad, and it'd be bad for the election. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go with this. So we're thinking along the same lines here. If the coronavirus crisis was handled well, it could work to the Republicans' advantage, as we see in South Korea, where the ruling Democrats won in a landslide. You're exactly right. It's like exactly where I'm going, dude. Because that's what I was gonna say here. Hang on, let me. Sorry, had to crack a beer. All right, I'm drinking. I'm drinking Ace Pineapple Craft Cider. That's what I'm drinking. They are not paying me for this. I'm just drinking it. Anyway, yeah, that's the point I was gonna make here, right? There was a way that this could have been handled to where the Republicans would have come out on top and they would have looked good. And the reason they're not doing it is because basically their donors don't want to go that route. So right now in Canada, for example, um, you don't have millions of people basically on the edge of being evicted from their houses. You don't have that going on. Nor do you also don't have, like in Europe, for example, 30 million people losing their jobs, stuff like that. There has been a little bit of layoffs. I'm not going to say there hasn't been, but it's nowhere near the amount that you see in the United States, right? Why is that? Well, first off, in Canada, for example, every adult is getting $2,000 a month for the entire, you know, length of this crisis. Okay, 2 grand a month. So we got our little $1,200 Trump bribe, right? Make no mistake, that's what it is. It's a bribe. That's why he put his name on all of the checks. I didn't get a check. I got deposit, but he sent me a letter that has his name on it. In fact, I've got the letter right over here. I'm gonna go get it, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about, right? Let's take a look at this here. Okay. From the White House, your economic impact payment has arrived. My fellow American, our country is. I'm not going to read this whole fucking thing. Blah, 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 blah. CARES Act, blah, blah, blah. Here's the money that you got, blah, 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 blah. Oh shit, my address is on there. I'm going to move that. Okay, hopefully nobody saw that. President Donald J. Trump, with his ridiculous second grade chicken scratch signature. Just so, I know that this money that I paid in taxes is coming back to me personally thanks to Donald Trump. He had to make sure to put his fucking name on it. Anyway, ridiculous. So, yeah, make no mistake, it's a bribe. Okay, if it wasn't a bribe, we would get more. All right, if it was an actual stimulus thing, if we got another $12,000, it would be stimulus. But we're not going to get another $12,000. It's not going to happen. It's not politically expedient for the Republicans to give us another, payment. And to be honest, to be frank and honest, it's not really politically expedient for the Democrats to give us another $12,000 payment either. $1,200 payment either. It's like it's not going to help them, right? Because it is in the Democrats' best interest to make Donald Trump look as bad as possible, because they somehow think that he's not doing that job well enough himself, right? And Donald Trump really could score some serious brownie points right now if he were to come out and say, "Hey, people are hurting. $12,000 isn't enough. You know, we got 30 million people out of work, right? We need to help these people before they get evicted, before they start losing their houses." If he were to like actually come out and do that shit, then he would seriously like pull ahead in the race. You know what I mean? And even though I probably still wouldn't vote for his ass, like I would definitely respect him a lot more, and I probably wouldn't go crazy if he got reelected, to be honest. But he's not doing that. He's not doing that, and because he's not interested in that. Okay. You notice that they had no fucking problem dumping, $2 trillion on the corporate sector once all this shit started happening, right? You notice that was no fucking big deal. They didn't even deliberate on that. They just did it. They didn't even pass a bill for that. They just went to the, you know, they just went to the Federal Reserve and just said quantitative easing, go, right? Same kind of thing. They don't have to get Congress to approve that shit. It's funny how like when it comes to actually helping real people in this country who matter, who make the fucking country run, they have to argue and they have to actually pass it in legislation and all that shit. But when it comes to like helping their fucking criminal friends on Wall Street, they do all of that without any debate, right? And it's like, both sides are guilty in this regard. I don't want to let the Democrats off the hook here, you know. Um, it's like there really is the dominant wing of the Democratic Party is corporatist, you know. The Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden wing. They're definitely corporatist, right? Their saving grace is that they're not as, I guess, prolific at screwing us as the Republicans are. But you could take Nancy Pelosi and put an R in front of her name, and she would make a very good moderate Republican. All right, let's not bullshit ourselves. So anyway, you know, so yeah, don't expect to get any more. We're probably not going to get another. And here's the thing: is that we're really going to need it. We're going to need it, and we're going to need it soon. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we have the political will to make it happen. I think it'll only happen after, people start getting evicted, people start getting kicked out of their houses, right? After small businesses fold up and all of that shit starts just like, falling apart, right? Then we'll probably see some kind of help coming. We'll probably see another stimulus of $1,200, you know. But they're not, they're simply not interested in that. So don't expect that to be a thing to happen anytime soon. How did we even get on this? Oh yeah, what were we talking about? We were talking about stimulus. We were talking about how they could handle it better. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, they definitely are missing a major opportunity here to garner some goodwill towards the country, right? So if they're not helping people, what the fuck are they doing? Well, that's the reason why I called this live stream, the fascist takeover during Corona, because that's pretty much what's happening right now. Uh, we're seeing power grabs in the country, specifically from the Republicans, right? Uh, Hang on one sec. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna. I gotta do one thing. Hang on, you guys. I know there's one person watching. Don't go away. Hey, get out of here. No, go. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if you could hear that, but cat scratching at the door, pissing me off. Anyhow, okay, so what exactly is happening? Well, you're starting to see basically the Republicans and the Trump people using this disruption in, you know, the functioning of government in order to enact pieces of their agenda. Um, and they're doing it this way because they can basically do it without having to go through the normal political process. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, the post office is on its last legs. All right. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with this, but basically, long story short, the Republicans have been trying to get rid of the post office for a long, long time. You know, why? They want to privatize it. Why do they want to privatize it? They see it as a way that they could, basically just chop up another piece of the, um, social safety net, right? And sell it off and make a shitload of money doing it. And that's the reason why. So this kind of goes all the way back to the Bush administration. This particular thing back in 2006, the Republicans passed a bill called the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act, right? And what did that do? Well, it mandated that the post office had to fund their retirement programs for 75 years in the future, right? Which is unrealistic and ridiculous and something that nobody does. So, no other federal agency or, government agency or state agency or whatever funds their retirement out to 75 years. None of them do. Additionally, no private corporation actually does that either. They don't, yeah, you fund it up to a certain amount, but 75 years in the future, like, why would you need to do that? So basically, that means that if the post office were to stop right now and they had this fund, then somebody who retires today could live on it for 75 years. That's basically how much money. So it comes out to something around $72 billion, right? Why did they do that? They did that specifically because that's kind of um, an unrealistic burden, which immediately put the post office into the red. And since 2006, they've kind of been struggling. So I don't know if you remember way back in the day, post offices used to be open, like, you know, some of them were open, way later than 5 p.m. Some of them were open on Sundays back in the day, right? All of that got cut. They had to make cutbacks in their services. They had to furlough workers for a little while. I don't know if you remember that, right? And they did that. They also did it right before the financial collapse back then occurred. So the post office got screwed even more. They have to start selling off offices, you know, post offices that have been open for, 50, 60, 70 years, started getting sold off. See, every town, in order to have a town in the United States, you have to have a post office. There has to be a post office there. There's no town, right? So there's like literally thousands of branches in the country, right? So, I could see, okay, downsize a little bit, but pretty soon it's sort of like it started getting pretty bad to where like sizable towns with significant populations only had one post office, right? And so what does that do? That means that more services got to be picked up by things like FedEx or, whatnot, right? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, if you ever tried to fucking mail something, but FedEx costs you an arm and a fucking leg to like mail shit, right? It's really expensive, to do something like to ship a package. And I know this, like me personally, this affected me because I actually make a little bit of money on the side with like eBay sales and shit like that. Like I buy used toys and video games and sell them on eBay, right? And DVDs and things like that and books. I sell stuff on eBay and usually make between $100 to $500 a month doing it. You know, I've been kind of relying on that a lot lately since I don't actually have a job now. You know, right? And this shit is essential. So it's like the post office goes away. That's like, I mean, think about how much of the economy now runs on the mail. Okay, all the stuff that you buy that gets shipped by the mail. When you buy something off of, even Amazon sometimes will use the mail. If it goes off to like some town in the middle of the Midwest somewhere that they don't have a distribution center, and they'll just like send it through the mail overnight or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that's the thing is that they'll say, okay, well, Amazon killed it because they have their own distribution channels, blah, blah, blah. Not always. Yeah, maybe if you're in a big city, but if you're in like some town in Alaska or some shit, that they don't have a service center nearby, you're not getting your fucking thing overnight, right? It's going through the normal mail. And that's even something like FedEx does that same thing. Federal Express. Like if you need to send something and it goes to an area they don't service, FedEx will take your money and send it through the normal mail, right? That's what they do. Okay? So it's like that's why the post office is important. It's because it's like, I don't know. It's very important, right? It's very important for the health of the nation, right? And they've been trying to dismantle it for a long time. So basically, since all of this shit happened, the post office hasn't gotten any help. They haven't gotten any, kind of stimulus or any kind of like bailout or whatever. And they've got something like, less than a month left to go before shit hits the fan and they fold up shop. And Donald Trump, and specifically Donald Trump, does not want to help them. So, unless we see something soon, unless our other politicians do something about it and get a bill in front of the president that he can't refuse to sign, then you can kiss the post office goodbye. And a lot of you guys out there, a lot of conservatives, libertarians, and shit like that don't care about this, and they will, right? Once the mail stops going in a country, you can, that's a very bad sign. I talked about in my other live streams that, I'm starting to become concerned about the stability of the United States, right? I am. This is a sign. This is a sign of instability, right? When your nation can't do shit like deliver the mail, that's a problem. Okay? You know, like services like that. Now, how long before that happens? How long before, like, say the fire department stops showing up when there's a fire, right? How long before the police stop coming when there's a fucking, riot? You know, maybe they want that. That's the thing you got to remember. Maybe all these fucking armed wackaloons out there with their fucking "Don't Tread on Me" shirts, who think that the world is run by Jewish lizards from another dimension and shit. Maybe they want it so that that things start to collapse, so then they can go out and shoot all the minorities they want without having to worry about the cops coming. You got to start kind of thinking about this sort of shit, because it's like, you know, you would say that 20 years ago, I would have said thinking that kind of thinking is paranoid delusions. And nowadays, I'm not so sure. You know, um, One thing that comes to mind is that these militia groups, these basically Tea Party groups, because that's what they are. Like these guys in Michigan, they're essentially Tea Party 2.0. Um, One of those groups is like basically funded by Trump's education secretary, which is Betsy DeVos. So if you don't know who Betsy DeVos is, she's part of the DeVos family. They own Amway, right? They basically made their money in a multi-level marketing scam that deludes, hopeful people out of their cash. Right. So, if you've never seen Amway before, it's funny. My brother was actually in it a long time ago. It's essentially like multi-level marketing. It's like one step above a fucking cult, really. You know, they delude you into thinking that you can make all of this money by like buying a certain amount of their product and blah blah blah, and then getting this number of other people to do it, and then it creates a pyramid and with you at the top, and etc. 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 Right. And so her family has basically just made their money ripping people off like this, for decades. And they're like extreme kind of conservative Christian sort of thing. So during her time as Trump's education secretary, she's done her best to dismantle the public education system in the country and, you know, trying to open it up for like, for it to be taken over by like Christian schools, right? That's basically what it is. And it's funny because, like, conservatives and Republicans and libertarians and shit like that, they always talk about how they want government to be so small, yet they're always after, their main goal seems to be to procure public. For themselves. So, I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, there's a group called, let's see, I got it written down right here. Let me scroll down a little bit. There's this quarantine group, right? And in fact, I have a link. Let me go to link right here, and I'll open it up. And let's just share our left monitor. Turn that on, and let me put that over there. Why can I not see anything? What the hell? Where's my left monitor? Are you guys seeing? Oh, shit. My left monitor is not, Whoa, what happened? Wait. Something is wrong here. Something is wrong with my live stream. What is wrong with my live stream? Okay, there it goes. Okay, it's back. Okay, now I'm wondering why my left monitor is not appearing here. Why am I not seeing anything? Let me try adding one. Let's add, let's say, sorry guys, technical difficulties. Let's do display capture. Add existing, okay. Not that one. You know it? It can't see it for some reason. I don't know why. That's really bad. Okay, but let's do that. Okay, let me put this over here. Let me put that over there. All right, and then I'll put this over here. There we go. Okay, so at least that way you guys can see this. Sorry about that. I don't know why it suddenly just like wouldn't let me capture that screen. This does not make any sense. The shit was working fine last time, folks. Anyway, let's move on. So yeah, why the DeVos family backing up Michigan protests is no surprise. Okay. So anyway, I did want to read a little bit. So it's the Michigan Freedom Fund, right? This is what she donates to. Okay, this is actually on The Guardian, which I will put links to all of this stuff down in the bottom of the thing. Basically going on to say, like, all of these different right-wing groups that she, like, is in bed with, and they just so happen to be, donating to these same, Tea Party groups that organized this fucking, like, armed takeover of the fucking, armed takeover of the, what the fuck? Okay, hang on. Now let me turn this off. Left monitor. Turn off. Display capture. There we go. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a lot of, here's the thing. We could dive into all the different connections between, we could dive into all the different connections between fucking, right wingers and whatnot. It's really ultimately it's really kind of just sort of one side is funding like basically it's like they're funding these people to get a certain like political I guess result, right? What's that result? Well, they they're essentially kind of doing it because they know that if the economy is shitty, if the economy goes into a depression like it's headed towards, then there's no way in hell Donald Trump gets reelected. Right. So there's lots of different aspects. That's one aspect there. They want to reelect Donald Trump, right? They know that going forward, each election that comes up is going to get harder and harder for them to win. And just because of simple demographics, right? Places like Texas are starting to turn purple, you know, and once that happens, like for example, once Texas, if it actually goes blue, then Republicans they don't win another presidential election, right? So it's like stuff like that. So they're fighting like hell to create the conditions in which he can actually win. They're seeing that Joe Biden is like annihilating him in the polls, right? That's fucking, you know, freaking him out a little bit. They think he's blowing it basically. Donald Trump goes on fucking TV every single night, says the stupidest fucking shit ever. You should inject fucking cleanser into yourself in order to like, get rid of the coronavirus, that kind of thing. They can't defend it, so they're starting to panic a little bit. So they're basically using every weapon they have in the shed in order to try and like, create those conditions to where they can actually win. That's the one reason, right? The other reason is because, ideologically, this is what they believe in, right? You know, don't believe anybody who's out there protesting with a flag with a little snake on it or whatever, or a fucking, Confederate flag, and they talk about how they're like patriots. They're not patriots, okay? Because, their ideology basically says that governments should not exist. So they're not, they're not patriots. Their ideology, what they believe, would result in the suffering of thousands, if not millions, of people, right? Anyway, so it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, getting back to what we were talking about, right? Let me go back to over here. They're basically using this as a way to enact a lot of their agenda that they want. Another thing that comes to mind, for example, the environment protections. That's one that's essentially gone. You know, the EPA has said that they're not going to enforce any environmental protections during the lockdown. So right now, if you own a factory, like if your factory is still going, because a lot of them are, like if your factory is say making foodstuffs, if it's making that kind of thing, if it makes paper products, then you would be considered an essential service and you would still be operating. Nobody's checking the environmental output of these places, right? Um, you know, that or like say power plants or anything like that, sewage treatment places, and they basically said, yeah, we're not gonna, the EPA said we're not gonna enforce any regulations while this is happening, and not only that, but they've waived the requirement to record, you know, so basically even when the shit's over, they won't be able to go back and like determine how extensive pollution has been since then. So it's like that's kind of like el numero uno on the libertarian conservative corporatist like hit list right there, is to nix those environmental regulations because they're costly. They're costly, they cost money, they drive down profits, right? And so that's there's no coincidence that suddenly all that shit goes away. And it's like, okay, I mean, the thing is, I can understand the need to relax it a little bit because you don't have people who are out there able to go check on it and that kind of thing, right? But it's like, we're just going to remove it completely, Didn't have to go that far. And I'm willing to bet, I didn't actually research any of this, but I'm willing to bet that other countries on Earth, are not going that extreme, right? I'm willing to bet that. Um, and it's all because, basically Republicans in charge see a fucking opportunity to like enact shit. Like that would never ever happen. You know, um, they couldn't get away with that unless there was this type of crisis, and so that's what they're doing. And you're gonna see like all kinds of shit like that. I mean, right now, labor completely fucked, right? If you own a business right now and you were to fire somebody because they were gay or some shit like that, there's nobody there to like say enforce that rule. You know, they would like, yeah, normally you could go and you could complain and you could like, say this person, they broke the law, whatever, and then you could like, get an investigation started. All of that stuff's on pause right now, right? There's no way to like, you know, so basically rules are essentially like, rules and regulations like that are essentially worthless if there's nobody to enforce them. And that's what's going on right now. So kind of fucking sad. And that's another sign that, the country is becoming, the country is destabilizing, right? If we're not able to enforce the law, right? That also includes things like pollution controls, right? That includes that. That includes, equality and labor laws, that kind of thing. If we're not able to actually enforce that shit, it's like, it's basically like not having a government. So, I don't know, man. I'm a little kind of concerned. I'm a little concerned. And, I don't think that if we were to actually collapse, it's not going to turn into like the Road Warrior, right? But, we've seen what happens when a country the size of ours collapses, because it's happened in our lifetime. And it happened with the Soviet Union, right? Not even 30 years ago. Well, look at Russia today. 30 years after the wall's gone down, what's Russia now? It's a fucking dictatorship. You know, Russia's a dictatorship where the majority of people are essentially peasants, right? And yeah, there's like a huge capitalist class now that didn't used to exist, right? But I don't know, did they really? It's basically just the oligarchs that were already there just became capitalists. So it's sort of like, you know, that's basically what we got to look forward to. And then, how long has fucking Putin been president for? I don't even know at this point. 15 years, something like that, you know? So it's sort of like, what kind of like the human rights record that Russia has, how they treat gay people, right? How they treat minorities, stuff like that. They don't fucking give a shit about any of the, you can go to prison for being like, basically being gay in Russia, you know? I mean, look at Pussy Riot. That's what we got to look forward to. If like, if the United States collapses and our constitution is thrown out and the people who are currently in power remain in power, that's what we got to look forward to. We got to look forward to basically Russia. That's what we're going to turn into. You know what I mean? Things where, there's the divide between rich and poor is very, very large. Like, you think it's bad in this country, you know, you ain't seen shit till you go to Russia. All right. It's, basically corruption and criminals at every level of society. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of the way of life, and it's sort of like Russia is what happens when the conservatives take over. Like belief in conspiracy theories is incredibly prevalent in Russia. It's I don't know, man. Maybe we could probably do a whole like live stream on just all the problems that Russia has. you know, um, yeah. So it's like I don't know. I mean, if you believe in human rights, if you want a clean environment, you know, if you want people to be able to vote and determine who their leaders are, and if you like it when like the police come when they're called, and the fire department comes when they're called, and when you mail a package, it fucking gets there, right? If you like these things, if you like having a stable working society, that you have some, you know, even a small amount of input in through the voting process. If you like having these things, then, you know, you should be worried because that's what they're trying to fucking dismantle. Anyway, we moved on this. We're kind of heavy when we just jumped right into the fucking bad news and shit. Right. You know, but it sucks, man. The fucking news out there isn't good. Um, let's see. What's going on with me lately? Well, um, my channel recently got suspended. Fucking fire trucks, please. I don't know if you can hear like, you know, sirens and shit outside. Don't be alarmed. Um, it's because I actually live near a fire department. So anyhow, yeah, my channel got temporarily suspended. I don't know if any of you guys are aware of that. Like basically for, you know, half a day. Right. That was bad news. It was because the last video I made was in response to a guy that made a response to one of my videos that I made like 11 years ago, right? And it was a video called People Who Piss Me Off, Libertarians. So I make this counter because he asked me to respond to him because normally I don't really respond to shit like this, but he said, you know, please, you can respond to me. So I was like, all right. So, and in that video, I there's a section where I was talking about thalidomide, which is a drug that was prescribed to pregnant mothers in the 50s that led to all these birth defects, right? So basically, I went to Google image search to look at pictures of thalidomide birth defects, and that I think is what triggered the bot that got my channel like temporarily suspended. Kind of scared the shit out of me. I actually went and started a backup channel, and I was just gonna start re-uploading videos, you know, because I was just like, well, fuck, man, they just took it all away, you know. Thankfully, a real person actually reviewed it, and you know, looks like it was okay. To be safe, I just went through and blurred out that entire section because I don't know if it was because, you know, you're not allowed to show little babies on YouTube, or maybe it was the fact that they were babies and they were like, you know, like all like deformed and stuff, and like maybe that could be considered like, I don't know, you know, maybe that's against some rule they have, or maybe that could be considered like gore or something. So I was just like, fuck, man, I didn't want to like, I don't want to risk it. So I just like blurred that entire section. So if you watch that video, it's the last one I uploaded. And you get to that section of that video and it's all blurry. That's what I'm looking at. And, you know, just do the Google image search yourself and check it out. Anyhow, I mean, it was a bummer and I was pissed, but I'm happy that, you know, cooler heads prevailed and I got the channel back. Right. So that's what's happening with me. You know, because of that. What else? What else? What else do you want to talk about here? Let's see. It looks like I got 4 viewers. Hey, I'm pretty happy. Right on. Thank you guys for watching. Let's see. What are we talking about here? Well, that's kind of the big thing in the news of these like AstroTurf fucking, you know, coronavirus protesters and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm trying my best to empathize. I'm trying my best to understand why you would, you know, do this. And it's like the more I watch of it, they're just basically fucking tea partiers, you know? The same kind of just like ignorant, like ridiculous conspiracy theory sort of mentality where they don't care about like anybody else. They don't care about the effect that their actions have on other people, and it's all about them, you know, like you've seen these videos of like the lady saying, oh, I want a haircut and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I want a haircut too, but at what cost is your fucking haircut gonna come, you know? Like, what if you're a carrier and you go and you get a haircut and you infect your fucking barber, and then your barber goes home and gives it to his grandfather and his grandfather dies? You would have no way of knowing that, right? You don't know where it came from. It's like basically that guy's dead now because of your fucking reckless actions. And I think that's just the difference between, liberals and conservatives, right? Is that, the liberals, right, progressives, I know a lot of people don't like to lunk those two together, but, you know, they basically kind of think about the consequences of their actions more, right? You got to understand, like, this is like in that whole libertarian video that I had with that guy, I think his name was like Philosophism. I kept kind of coming back to that same statement over and over again. It's not all about you. Your society is not just about you only. It's the government has to make decisions that are in the best interest of everybody. And that's kind of like the difference between good and bad government. When your government is actually looking out for you, doing things that help you, for example, Canada giving all adults $2,000 a month until, you know, the lockdown is completed, then it's kind of like, your government's working for you. And that's how you know it's successful, right? Ours is not doing that. It hasn't done it for a long time. I'm trying to think back. I mean, seriously, like, I think the last time that I felt like the government worked for me was in 2009 when Barack Obama bailed out the auto industry. And because at the time, the place I worked for was kind of like a satellite industry of the auto industry. And he essentially saved my job, right? That's like, I think that was the last time I actually felt kind of like proud of, like, of my leader. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wow, the guy actually did something that helped people. You know, like, when was the last? Can you think of anything that Donald Trump or, the Republicans in Congress have like been behind that's actually helped people that in the same way as that? You know, I did say last week that he did one good thing. He suspended um, student loans. Right. So that's like the one positive thing that I can think of through this whole thing that he did, that is actually helping people. Right. Because, the bailout, the little bail, like the fucking $1,200 bribe they gave you, that kind of helps people, but not really. And it's sort of insulting almost, it's sort of like, gee, that's all we're going to get. Thanks, assholes. Like, it doesn't really help very much. I mean, if it was $1,200 a month, that might be a lot better. You know, I'd feel a lot better about it if it was $2,000 a month. That would be great, and that would probably actually help the economy a lot. But it's sort of like they're not even doing the very basic minimum it takes in order to keep shit running. And you think, like, do they want people to not vote for them? Is that what it is? Like, are they like just, or is it that they're so you know confident that the wacky conservative militia types, the same, like the Tea Party kind of people, the same people that went and took over this state house with gun, armed, like, are they so confident that those guys are going to be able to win the election for them that they think they don't need to? Is that it? Right? I mean, I don't understand. It's like, I almost think they've kind of given up. Like, I think they've kind of given up already, and they know that it's fucked, and they know that they have a very small amount of time left, and so they're just going to try to get as much as they can, and then, when it all comes crashing down, do everything they can to blame the other side. Like, like, kind of like when at the end of World War II, when the Nazis were retreating, right? They sort of went through and blew up and destroyed as much infrastructure as they could. They dynamited roads, they pulled up train tracks, things like that. They destroyed as much as Germany as they could in order to keep it from falling into the hands of the Allies. I'm getting the same feeling right now. It's sort of like the Republicans know that they're, just due to demographics, right? They know that the same kind of hold on power that they have now is going to go away within the next generation. And so they're trying to dynamite as much as possible and, dig in their heels as much as they can. Like you'll notice that one thing that you keep hearing is about how Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell have managed to seat an abnormally large number of federal judges, right? Like that's kind of all that they've concentrated on, something like hundreds and hundreds of conservative federal judges because those are people that are going to be in their positions for decades to come. They're trying to consolidate power because they know they're going to lose the presidency and most likely Congress, right? So it's kind of sad, and it really shows where their priorities are, you know. Let's see. 1,200 is better than nothing, and I'd say they'd be goaded to provide another one when the crisis lasts longer than more than 1 2 more months, I reckon. Yes, you're exactly right. And I think also, oh shit, hit the camera there. I think also that's part of behind the reason why they want to reopen all the states prematurely, is so that they can avoid um, paying that money, right? Because they don't want to pay that money because it doesn't help their donors, basically. I think that's what it is. They're basically saying like, like that's also another thing that we're not hearing a lot about is that a lot of the states are kind of on the verge of committing, bankruptcy, basically. But a state is not allowed to go bankrupt, which is bullshit. States should be allowed to declare bankruptcy, but they're not. So they're going to run out of money. Well, what's going to happen when states run out of money, right? They need to be bailed out by the Fed, you know, or else they're not able to pay for essential services. Well, one of those services is, unemployment, right? And that's one thing that Trump and McConnell are refusing to do also, right? Is cover that. So right now, as part of the bailout package, you get an extra $600 per week for a month, right? In unemployment. Well, that's going to run out pretty soon. I've already gotten 2 weeks of that, so that's not lasting that much longer. That lasts another 2 weeks, right? After that, that's it. Well, what happens if, say, like, you know, California or Florida or something runs out of money, right? Because of the shutdown, because people are not working, so they're not collecting, people are not spending, so they're not collecting sales tax, right? And the state is unable to pay, unemployment anymore. Then a lot of people are going to be up shit creek when that happens, right? That is going to be seriously fucking bad. And if we don't get some kind of help from the Fed, like that's exactly what the Fed is there for, to prevent crises like that from happening, right? Um, and so you'll start seeing states doing things like what happened in Kentucky. Kentucky did the same kind of thing. They did this experiment where, they basically did a neoliberal experiment where they like cut taxes down to like nothing and all of this stuff, right? Thinking that companies would invest there and that would increase revenue. And it didn't, it didn't because Austrian economics are bullshit. Okay, that just needs to be said. So, the state of Kentucky basically had to cut back on everything because they wouldn't raise taxes, right? And, they ended up selling, for example, the fleet. Like each state has a fleet of cars that they use for administrative purposes, so that you can take if you work at a capital somewhere and you got to drive somewhere, you can take a car, and it's like you'll see it. It'll have a license plate with an E on it. That means it's a state vehicle, right? And they did stuff like in Kentucky, they went and they sold all of the state-owned vehicles, for example. So now you just have to drive your own car if you work for the state. They did shit like that, right? They cut all the little programs they had, and you know all of that shit. They cut it all back, and basically Kentucky was on the verge of becoming a failed state and shit didn't work and they had to raise taxes again, you know. So we have like an example of what fucking happens when a state doesn't get any tax revenue, you know. And it's kind of like I really think, you know, part of the reason why they don't want to do it is because they want that to happen. It's like they want the states to fucking collapse, you know, because it's like the conservative Republican libertarian wet dream, right? Because then the states won't be able to enforce things like environmental regulations, like labor regulations, right? You know, they won't be able to enforce shit like that, you know, and that's what they want. They want that so that their criminal friends can make a shitload of money. And it's really like absolutely fucking ridiculous. And just another sign that we're on the verge of like collapsing as a fucking nation. Let's see. Something else I wanted to share here was another story that I saw. White House. Okay, this is from the Intelligencer. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the window here. Give me 1 second, guys. Yes, dump McConnell for sure. Let's see. Okay, I want to show you this. Let me just kind of make this a little smaller. So we'll just put this in the side of the window here, so that way I can keep drawing. White House has erected a blockade stopping states and hospitals from getting coronavirus PPE. So this is from the Intelligencer New York Magazine, right? Um, and I wanted to kind of read because this basically tells a story. This article, it's actually really good. It tells a story about how the states are getting screwed by the federal government when it comes to getting their protective equipment, right? So, if you haven't heard about this, this about 2 weeks ago, there was a little bit of a scandal when Jared Kushner basically said the states were on their own and changed the wording of the federal stockpile to, because up until this point, the federal stockpile has always been understood to be the place where the nation stores important, you know, supplies, things like, you know, gasoline, medical supplies, medicines, respirators, you know, as well as things like, you know, food, emergency food, and water, and you know, even ammunition in some cases, right? These things are supposed to be in the federal stockpile, and it's always been understood that that was there so that when there was an emergency, the states could rely on it. And Jared Kushner basically turned around and said, yeah, that's not for the states, that's for the Fed. So, which is ridiculous because it's like, well, what the fuck is, you know, what is the country if not the states? I mean, what else is there in the United States, right? If it's not for the fucking states, then who's it for, right? Apparently, it's for the Fed. So, Trump and Kushner have basically tried to blame Barack Obama for this, saying that the condition of the supplies we had were in horrible shape, blah 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 blah, whatever. I don't really buy that excuse myself because Barack Obama is not in charge right now, and even if he was, that doesn't matter. Like I actually said this in my last live stream, but it bears repeating. You know, a lot of this stuff bears repeating. So if you've ever managed people, right, one of the things that somebody will say when they're not doing a good job is they'll try to deflect. Okay. I didn't do this thing. This didn't screw up because of me. It screwed up because of that guy over there. Okay. If they can't deflect, right, then what they'll do is they'll blame the system. Okay. Oh, well, this thing crashed because of we have it set up as blah, 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 blah. Right. Then the third excuse is, well, it was already like that when I got here, you know. The third excuse is, well, that's not my responsibility anyway. Okay. So Jared Kushner kind of went through all three of those excuses. You know, well, the stockpile was no good because, you know, the prior administration didn't like keep it up, right? and it was already like that when I got here. You know, the system is just not set up right, and also we're not supposed to, this is not our responsibility anyway. The stockpile is not for the states, you know. And that's basically a sign, when you hear those three things, that's basically a sign that the guy you have working in that position is useless. Okay. And, you know, you should think about replacing him. Right. Like when you know, my last gig, I actually ran a small group. You know, at one point I had 9 people and like 2 offshore teams and whatnot. But, you know, and that was always sort of like, you just be on the lookout for that. When people give excuses, you know, if your excuse is legitimate, how come this didn't work? Well, this and this happened. It was out of my control. Okay, that's fine. Right. But those 3 excuses right there are bullshit excuses. Okay. You're the one in charge of this. So basically, you know, they're the ones in charge of the stockpile. So it doesn't matter if it came from the prior administration already screwed up. They should have fixed it. Okay. They had 3 years to fucking fix it. They didn't. Okay. So don't blame, you know, secondly, it's like, oh, the system is screwed up. Okay. This is, you know, whatever. Well, fine. You're the one in charge. So what did you do to fix that? You know, you didn't do shit. So it sounds like you already fucking knew the system was screwed up. How come you didn't do anything about it? Right. You know, third one, that's not my responsibility. Well, if it's not your responsibility, then why the fuck are you even here? You know, like, why are you there if like you're not supposed to be doing this? How come you're the one handling? Tell me whose responsibility it was, and let's go talk to them, right? You know, like what is your role in this in the first place if it's not your responsibility, right? And so that's kind of like, you know, that's a sign of very, you know, when your management is saying that shit, you know, like if you think about Jared Kushner and Donald Trump actually being upper management, right? If they're the ones saying that shit, then it's like it's a sign that basically they have their heads up their asses and they don't know what they're doing. You know, like I really wouldn't hire this guy to do anything. I wouldn't hire him to run a fucking lemonade stand, Jared Kushner. You know, because he just gave like every horseshit excuse in the book for the fact that he got caught was pants down. You know, I mean that's the thing. Like, and just some advice for anybody out there. You know, if you ever get, for example, put in a situation where you have to explain why there was a huge fuck up and a massive failure, be honest. Okay. Be honest because lying is not going to save you. You know, it's so like, for example, I can name one example, you know. Well, actually, no, I don't want to talk about what my last job was because it's like, you know, kind of like I might end up doxing myself, right? So I'm not going to do that. But, you know, it's kind of like if you're ever in that position, you know, and shit has just gone south. And, you know, the first thing that happens is that everybody looks for somebody to blame. And if you have a role to play in that, it's better just to say what happened and say why. And if your excuse is legit, if you actually have a legit excuse, then it'll be fine, you know, versus just, oh, you're fucking incompetent. It's like, well, no, this is what really happened. It was out of my control, right? If that's a real legit excuse, then it'll hold up, you know, and it's kind of like, because if you lie, it makes it worse. That's what's going on with Jared Kushner here. So anyway, I just wanted to, I know how we just got on this big long ass fucking, how I just kind of went on a tangent there. Anyway, this article kind of describes how, you know, in Massachusetts, right, they kind of had to do this sort of clandestine kind of cloak and dagger shit in order to get like a shipment of protective equipment, right? Because what's happening, and this is kind of unbelievable, is the Fed is not only are they going in and counter bidding against the states for the same equipment, if the states end up buying it, the Fed is actually just going in and confiscating it. You know, so basically they needed some face gloves and goggles and face shields and N95 respirators and all of that shit, and they had to do all of this, you know, clandestine stuff behind the scenes in order to talk to people in Korea and China and stuff in order to get the ship over. And then he sent the National Guard to like basically guard it, you know, because fucking, you know, where is it? There was a thing in here because it was in Colorado. There was a shipment of this shit that was supposed to go to Colorado that got confiscated by fucking FEMA, you know. And what's happening with it? Well, so once they confiscate it, it goes to the federal, the federal stockpile, which Jared Kushner and Donald Trump are distributing at a profit. Okay, that's the thing that they're not mentioning. They have a third party that is not distributing the stuff to the states as they need it, but selling it to the states and taking some off the top. They're fucking, you know, basically it's like war profiteering. They're disaster profiteering is what it is. Right. This shit is gonna come out. There's no way that stuff like this happens and just goes away. This is all gonna come out years from now. And I'm very, very confident that long after Donald Trump is out of office, right, and we're unable to touch him, the full story will come out, and he'll probably get away with it scot free. You know, Jared Kushner might actually end up in jail one day for this, but not Donald Trump, because we never, he's a president now, right? So he's basically untouchable. We don't hold presidents accountable in this country for anything, especially after they get out of office. It's like I can guarantee you, once Donald Trump leaves office, all of this bad shit goes away. Nobody ever talks about it ever again. That's just what happens. I'd be very, very surprised. If we would have like voted for Bernie Sanders, maybe they would persecute him afterwards. But Joe Biden, no fucking way. Joe Biden isn't gonna do shit to stop. To especially Trump. They might like go and get some low level people, some asshole you've never heard of might end up like getting prosecuted, but not the president. And that's a good thing to kind of segue into. I did want to kind of talk about um, you know, Biden here for a little bit. How long we've been streaming here? Let me see. Shit, an hour. Okay. Yeah, I did want to talk about Biden a little bit here, because, for better or worse, he is the Democratic nominee now. Um, they're not even putting Bernie on the ballot anymore in New York, which is bullshit. But, he already suspended his campaign because Bernie knows it's pretty much mathematically impossible for him to win at this point. Which is sad because I really think he had a shot. I really think that Bernie probably not only would have mopped the floor with Donald Trump, but probably would have been the right person we need, especially now, especially in this kind of crisis. But that's not going to happen. So who do we got to look for? Can, you know, Biden save us? I guess. No, no way. I don't think so. Right? I would be very surprised if Biden wins. Okay. First off, the main reason being is that the entire progressive wing of the Democratic Party is not very excited about Biden. And they weren't excited about him before all of this stuff with the sexual allegations came up, you know? They weren't excited about him then. They wanted Bernie Sanders, right? And this whole thing with Tara Reid and all of the sexual assault allegations is just basically put the nail in the coffin for that. So he can kiss any support from the progressive wing goodbye. You know, whether you believe it actually happened or not, which it's looking like it actually did happen. Just looking at the evidence, right? Um, yeah, if whether you believe that or not, that's all the excuse they need to just not vote for him. I'm not voting for a rapist, right? So there you go. So just basically count out anywhere from 15 to 25% of Democrats gone. Okay. Mm. We don't really know how many they are, right? And it could very well be that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is a lot smaller than we think. I mean, they're not large enough to get their candidate, um, the nominee for their candidate. So they're not as powerful as everybody thought they were. I definitely thought they were. I thought they had it clinched at this time. To be honest, I really thought Bernie Sanders was going to win the nomination, and seeing how close he got last time, and just seeing how but what they are, they're kind of like the same thing with the Tea Party people on the right. They're a very vocal minority within the Democratic Party, right? The thing is that unlike the Tea Party, the progressive wing is not loyal to the Democratic Party at all. They're not. They'll just not. They're just not going to show up, right? They're going to vote green, and if they don't vote green, they're not going to vote at all, and that's exactly what's going to happen, right? Um, what do you think? Okay, DNC not learning their lesson with Hillary. What do you think about the eventual debate between Biden and Trump? Well, I don't think it'll go well for either of them, right? I think Trump has more charisma, and because we saw like those debates that he had with Hillary Clinton were ridiculous. They were the dumbest. Like if you were basing who you were going to vote for on those debates, I mean Hillary Clinton all the fucking way. I don't know if you remember, Donald Trump was like, hovering behind her. He kept interrupting her. He just wouldn't shut the fuck up, right? Like, and I don't know, but that's the thing is that his followers like that kind of shit. I personally think that debates don't really do very much anymore to, sway voters one way or the other. I think most people go into the debate already knowing who they're going to vote for and then read into the debate what they want to read. So if you were, for example, a Biden supporter before the debate, I think you're going to come out saying that Biden crushed it. Same thing with Trump. And I really do believe that, debates don't actually do much to, maybe like 1 to 5%, if even that, of people go into a debate going, I really don't know who I'm going to vote for. Let me see who's better. It's like, no, man, most people already fucking know, right? Um, that being said, there is a large portion of the populace who are truly independent. And when I say truly independent, I mean those people who don't follow politics very quickly, right? You know, they think it's boring, it's just not their thing, and really don't have an opinion one way or the other, right? And I don't really know how many people that is. It's a significant amount. See, that's the thing is that especially when you're really into shit like this, like I am, if you're kind of a politics junkie and you read the news constantly and whatever and study up on the shit and all that stuff, it's kind of hard to think about not being, making decisions without this information, I guess is what it is, right? Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just sort of vote however their parents voted or their friends voted. Or if they're really truly undecided, maybe they'll kind of look up a guy, beforehand and see what he stands for. But most people really don't, they don't really base their decisions on very much. They're either like one issue voters, abortion. I'm going to vote for whichever candidate is either for or against abortion, right? They're either one issue voters or they vote for whoever, like they vote for the name they recognize. That's another thing. That's the reason why celebrities tend to win elections. I don't know if you ever noticed that, whenever a celebrity runs for election, they win. Arnold Schwarzenegger fucking wins. Jesse Ventura wins, right? What do those guys got to have to stand for? Can you even name anything that they supported or didn't support? Not really. They're not because they're not known for being politicians. They're known for being celebrities. So people show up and they go, "Oh, look, Jesse Ventura. I'm gonna vote for him." I don't know. He was good in fucking that movie one time. He was good in Predator. I'm gonna vote for him. You know what I'm saying? Like Sonny Bono. That's another one. He was in Congress for years and years and years. Al Franken, right? Had no problem winning elections every fucking year. It's like, so that's the thing. People, you can't underestimate that sort of low information voter and why they vote for things that they vote for. I mean, I think we should take advantage of that personally. I think we should find a progressive candidate celebrity and get him to run for president and use that fucking effect against the Republicans. That in no small part also helped Donald Trump get elected because he was on TV, because he was a celebrity, because people knew who he was, right? Guarantee you, there were people who are like, I'm gonna vote for Trump. Why? Because I like The Apprentice. Fucking guarantee you. Anyway, um, but yeah, getting back to Joe Biden, like, I don't know, man. I don't think, I think this election is his to lose. That is to say, like, I think if he really wanted to, and if he did the right things, he would God stomp in this election. All he really has to do in order to get my support is, like, just throw a bone to the progressives. You know what I mean? Like, give us something. Give me a reason to vote for you. All right. And because I'm probably, I don't know. I'm still thinking if it's bad enough to where I'll vote for Joe Biden. I haven't decided yet. I mean, it's kind of like if you're left with one of those like really shitty decisions. It's like, well, do I want to get punched in the face or do I want to get both of my legs sawed off? Right? I'd rather get punched in the face, than have no legs. So it's like that's kind of it. Joe Biden is punching me in the face, but Donald Trump is chopping my legs off with a chainsaw. So, you know, just when you're left with two shitty decisions, you got to make the decision that's less shitty, right? And it I guess it comes down to it's like, do I hate Donald Trump more than I dislike Joe Biden? I think that's really what, for me personally, what that decision comes down to. I can tell you right now, for a lot of progressives, that decision is easy, you know, and they're gonna say fuck Joe Biden, right? So he's already starting at a disadvantage, you know. It's like they're kind of like doing all the wrong shit on purpose. It's almost like he doesn't want to win. You know what I mean? Like you don't alienate 15 to 25% of your fucking electorate. Like why? Because they want to, because they're focusing on basically liberal, centrist Republicans. Those are the people they're trying to like cater to. It's like, why? What the fuck? They're not gonna vote for you. That's what they don't understand. Like they're kind of betting on this thing where like the Republicans have had enough of Donald Trump, you know, and they're sick of him, and he's too much of a clown, he's too much of a pansy or whatever, and they want to return to normal. And like, Joe Biden will give you this return to normalcy. That shit is not going to work. So I really wouldn't be surprised. I don't even think really that the Republicans have to cheat this time, right? Which doesn't mean that they're not going to try to. I mean, you've already heard like, how they're basically not going to do shit to help people vote this election, because there's a very big chance, right, that between now and November, we're going to see the curve flatten out. And then right around November, December, it's going to spike back up. And we could, and by that point, we're still not going to have a vaccine, right? So there's a very good chance that in November, we're going to be doing the social isolating shit all over again, right? Social distancing, people working from home, stores closing. That could happen all over in November. And so, people are not going to want to go vote if that's the case, right? Polling places are not going to, like, look at what happened in Michigan, right? They had an election, right, during the fucking COVID-19 thing, right? They closed down a shitload of, like, polling places and all that. People were waiting in line for hours and hours and hours, right? There was a spike 2 weeks later in cases after that. So some of those people died for that election. You got to remember that shit. Some of those people who are waiting in line to vote in Michigan because the Republicans wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't fucking delay that election, right? Some of those people are going to die, right? And it doesn't help that they won. I mean, the fact that the Democrats won the important, um, that's not the point. The point is that like, a functioning democracy, like we shouldn't have to, it shouldn't even be a question that you want people to vote. They should be doing everything they can to help people vote. And that's what a functioning democracy needs. A functioning democracy needs an electorate. Without an electorate, you don't have a democracy. It's not a democracy if you don't have an electorate. And they're going to do everything they can for people to not vote, right? Because they know when people don't vote, Republicans win. And that's just another part of the fucking takeover, you know, like I don't know, man, it's everywhere you look, man. Like the fascist takeover of the country is accelerating, you know. In every place that you turn around, you know, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, I don't really know, like what can you do to protect yourself, right? I I don't know. Maybe those crazy prepper guys had, you know, maybe they had the right idea. Maybe you should go out and buy gold or you know, bitcoins or something like that. You know, put your investments in things that you think will survive the collapse of the dollar. All right. Because 5 years ago, I would have said there was no fucking worry about that and they're crazy. Not so much anymore, man. You know, if the country collapses, your dollars are going to be worth nothing. Okay. You know, your savings are going to be worth fucking jack shit. Your stocks aren't going to be worth shit. Maybe it's a good idea. You know, maybe I should go buy. I have a shitload of silver. Maybe I ought to go buy some gold coins. I don't know. Let me see what you got. Politically influencing swing votes is the option that's unfortunately the best choice since the whole first past the post means progressives would have to vote Biden or risk losing to Trump. Yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing is that I don't think the progressives in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party really cares anymore. You know, I think that they're kind of pissed off. And although, like, this time around, there doesn't really seem to be much in the way of shenanigans. Like, you know, in 2016, there was a lot of reports that shit was rigged and you know, that kind of thing. And there was like super delegates and all this other crap. And people felt ripped off after that, you know, primary process, right? That didn't really happen this time. This time it was a little more fair and square, you know. Of course, I mean, there are occasional reports of shenanigans here and there, but, you know, usually, like, the biggest thing I think is the fact that he's not even going to be on the ballot in New York. That's kind of bullshit. But he already kind of dropped out before that, so, you know, there doesn't seem to be any cheating. And I think that, you know, they could have gotten buy-in from the progressive wing if they just would have like done something to fucking like, you know, have a couple of concessions, you know, give them a little bit, you know, maybe not ask Bernie to be the vice president, but Kamala Harris, you know, Elizabeth Warren. You know, would you vote for Joe Biden if Elizabeth Warren was vice president? I think that'd be enough for me, you know. I'd do it because fuck it, he's gonna die, right? He's already like, you know, he's already fucking like, you know, one marble short of a fucking bag there, right? He's starting to like, you know, I'm not, I mean, shit, cognitive decline. You know, everybody can tell that he's starting to kind of, you know, he's going down a fucking downhill a little bit, right? And how long is he gonna last? Even if he gets elected, how long is he gonna last? 2 years, 3 years? You know, this isn't a conspiracy. You know, they said they had this conspiracy about how like, you know, Hillary Clinton had fucking mad cow disease and shit like that. This isn't some silly ass conspiracy. All you have to do is watch the guy talk for 10 minutes and you can see that he's like, you know, getting that Alzheimer's up in there, right? And you know, it's true. It's not, you know, it's shitty, but it's also true and we have to like face reality there. You know, 2 years. I I'm giving him 2 years. 3 years max, you know. Whoever we get as the vice president is going to be like really important. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, I would do it. I would like if it was like, you know, Elizabeth Warren as the vice president, I'd vote for him. That would be enough for me to look past the sexual, you know, harassment allegations. Because then I would say, well, at least when he fucking, you know, eventually fucking steps down because he can't like, you know, wipe his own ass anymore, we'll have somebody in there who's like, you know. Anyway, where's the tabloid about Hillary getting mad cow disease? Well, I don't know if you remember, that was a big conspiracy theory on the right wing back in 2016. This idea that it came out of Alex Jones, right? And well, actually, what really came from was fucking came out of 4chan is where it came out of. But there's a video of Hillary Clinton fainting, right? And her security guys hauling her away. Like basically, she's walking and then she faints, and then they pick her up by both of the arms and they drag her into a car, right? And from that video, they created this elaborate conspiracy theory that she was dying, so she can't just faint, she has to be fucking dying. And then Alex Jones came on and said that she had curry, right, which is mad cow disease, right? But curry is a thing that comes from cannibals in like the Pacific Island cannibals and shit. And the idea is because Hillary Clinton and the whole like Pizzagate thing, right? How they weren't just abusing small little children, but they were actually cooking them up and eating them. So if you're interested in reading about that, check out just look up Hillary Clinton spirit science, right? Spirit cooking is what it is. Spirit science. Hillary Clinton spirit cooking, and you'll find all this ridiculous, crazy, fucking batshit insane conspiracy theory shit about how Hillary was kidnapping kids from Haiti and cooking them up in rituals and eating their brains, and that's why she had mad cow disease and was going to die in 5 years. Which is funny because she's like still alive and very healthy and very kicking. And I even made a bet with a guy that she would be alive in 4 years. So I'll be getting an extra $1,000 here in about 6 months, right? So anyway, that's the time we got here. Shit, it's already hour and a half. Was there anything else I wanted to talk about? I think we should probably end this. Let's see. Talked about that. Talked about Jared Kushner. I got some notes on my other screen here. Let's see. One other thing. Okay. One other thing. Okay, so it does seem like there is a lot of bad news out there. It does seem like the country is like basically fucking going down the tubes, right? And shit is really bad. It's really horrible, and it's like what, folks, you are not the United States. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, regardless of any of this stuff that keeps happening out there, you know, a nation is more than just its government. It's actually its people, right? And if tomorrow, for example, the federal United States government collapsed, there would be something else that would be born out of it, right? At this point, I'm not so sure that the thing that would be born out of it would be a very good thing. I'm not, you know. But that doesn't mean it would have to be, you know, horrible, right? That doesn't mean that instantly we're all just going to devolve into like this sort of Mad Max road warrior kind of thing where people are like, cruising the fucking highways, abducting people and like, murdering them and stealing their fucking gasoline and shit like that. Right. Um, who knows what would actually happen if this, somehow, and this is also, I want to say that this is also very unlikely to happen as well. It's unlikely that the United States would collapse, right? But it's just more of like at this point I wouldn't rule it out. Seeing how things are going, seeing how the people who are in charge and what they're trying to fucking do and the policies they're putting in, I wouldn't put it past them, The Soviet Union collapsed for a lot less than what's going on with us, right? They were in the same kind of debt that we had. They had the same kind of social unrest, you know, and they didn't even have a pandemic to worry about. So, if the worst thing happens, it's not the end of the world, is what I mean to say. You'll still be alive, right? You'll still have your job, you'll still have your house, you know, your state government most likely will still be going, right? The food will still arrive on the shelves, you know, the electricity will stay on, right? The internet will still work, and it'll just be kind of a new, you know, a whole new world out there. And who knows, maybe it might end up being a good thing. Maybe California, Nevada, and Washington, and, you know, form their own state, right? Where marijuana is legal and we have, you know, UBI, and Texas and Tennessee and Kansas, whatever, form their own little confederacy where they just kick out everybody who isn't white or something, you know. And then maybe we'll have a problem where we're like, we have to deport all of those people because they're coming here to get jobs because there's no jobs down there, right? Who knows what'll happen, you know. Now I just want to say, you know, I highly doubt that this is a valid scenario. I just want to, you know, repeat that again. But I'm just saying it's like, you know, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is don't let this kind of stuff keep you up at night. You know what I mean? Like, it can hit a point where if you get too much into politics, too much into the news and current events and all of these things, where it starts to create a lot of anxiety, you know. And you'll hear about this, like, what do they call it? Um, you know, I guess it gets really stressful, right? Sorry, I've been talking for 2 hours. My mouth is all fucking dry. You know, and like they were like after like Trump got elected, there were people who had to go to therapy and shit like that. You know, right? And what I'm trying to say here is don't let it ruin your day. You know what I mean? Just like be informed, keep yourself informed, make proper informed decisions when it comes to politics and who you support, who you give money to, especially, right? But if shit doesn't go your way, you know, if you lose the election, right? If the people you don't like get elected, if the policies you want don't get enacted, you know, don't go crazy over it, right? Is what I'm trying to say. You know, go out there and live your life to the best of your ability. And, you know, there's no need to show up at the fucking, you know, I don't know. I hope you understand what I don't know. I'm kind of all right. I'm getting a little tired here. It's been 2 hours. I'm starting to like fucking ugh, lose it all. Anyway, I think we should probably end this. Plus, my hand is hurting. It's like ah. So let me zoom out a little, and let's see what we got here. Let me zoom out. Video capture, and I'm going to properties, and then that. And let's go to camera control. All right. Okay, so here's where we're at now. Not bad looking, you know. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm not really sure how far to take this, like I said before, but yeah, you know, maybe I'll fill I think what I'm going to do, maybe like 2 more live streams, we'll fill this part and then we'll just kind of make another line here and then we'll just cut it off because I've got like all of this paper here to do and it's like I'm not going to fill this whole thing. It'll take a year. But I like what's happening here so far. It's very you know, yeah. Let me just kind of zoom in on that so you can kind of see some of the detail of what we did today. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I don't know if you guys like what I'm doing, you know, let me know. I do have a SD shop, so let me just kind of show you that. Let's see here. Let me go up and open up my SD shop. ETSY. And let's see. It's gonna make me sign in. God damn it. Hang on, folks. Okay, sorry. But you know, I need to start pimping my stuff here. Else, you know, it's just like I'm never going to sell anything if I don't actually do something about, if I don't actually show you what I got, then I'll never actually, make any money. Right? So, anyway, let me open up that. Let me open up this. Okay, so first off, I have an SD shop here. So let me show you my thing. Let's close that. Let's turn on our display capture. And let me make this really big. Okay, so if you like what I do sell these things. This is my artwork here on my shop, right? And I sell these sort of prints. These are large prints, just to kind of show you one. Here's one right here. These are 11 by 17 coffee stained prints that I do. And each one comes out unique. Ignore all those cars and shit driving around outside. But I use coffee and other things to kind of stain them, so that each one comes out a little bit different. This is a character from H.P. Lovecraft, for example. Let's see, let's close that. And then here's another one, another scroll. So I sell these for $15 each. So if you like my channel, you like what I do, please consider going down and checking out my SD shop. I also have my own comics that I self-publish comic books also, so those are here too. I do have an Instagram. This is my Instagram, Dirty Kitchen Press. So I'll put a link to that down there. Most of this is just artwork, I also have a web comic. So I've started to /WP. I have started to update my webcomic a little bit, right? So this is hawanja.com, right? So my first webcomic. Then, this one's about like ninjas and shit like that. And then I have another one called Dirty Kitchen Comics, which is, what happened to why is that not there? Oh, wait, there it goes. Okay. So this is Dirty Kitchen Comics, where I update this once a week, with different, comics and shit like that. Trying to get it done every Monday, so that's cool. Then I also have a Patreon, so Mark's Patreon, which right now I don't have any Patreon members. But if you join and become at the $1 level, I will give you early access to videos and give you a shout out in any of my videos. And if you join at the $10 level, I will make a video on the subject of your choice. It doesn't matter what that subject is, naked elephant mud wrestling. I'll make a video on that, if you want. Or I will draw something for you, black and white art piece, something like this, what we're doing right now. I'll draw that for you. And $20 a month, I will give you a free item of choice from my SD store and everything else at the $10 and $1 levels. So, please consider joining. Let me turn that off. If you like what I do, those are the different ways that you can support me. Thank you all so much. Let me go back to my thing here. Close that guy. Let's see. Are we still streaming? We are, right? Okay. Thank you, Matthias. You're the guy. I think you're like pretty much the only person who watched the entire thing today. So, thank you so much for joining me. Tell your friends and all that. And we'll do another one of these probably next week sometime. Probably on Wednesday. I might do another live stream once I get some more material to talk about. Anyway, I think we're out of here. Adios, man.